Imagine the snow stops moving, and everything goes silent. A moment ago you were riding a roaring river of white. Now it's perfectly still, and perfectly dark. You try to move your arm and it won't budge. You try to move a finger and even that is locked in place. The snow that was soft powder seconds ago has set around your entire body like concrete. And somewhere above you, a clock has just started counting down. You have, on average, about 15 minutes. So why is that number so brutally short? Why can't you simply dig your way out? And what does an avalanche actually do to the people it buries? Because the answer is not what most movies have led you to believe. Let's start with the snow itself, because that's where the danger really begins. When a slope of snow lets go, it does not slide down in one neat sheet. It shatters and it starts to flow. A big avalanche behaves much more like a fast-moving liquid than a solid block. It can race downhill at highway speeds, churning and tumbling, carrying everything with it. And being caught in it is less like being buried and more like being thrown into violent, freezing rapids made of snow. People who survive often describe desperately trying to swim, just to stay near the surface. Because where you end up when it all stops makes a life or death difference. Now here is the part that catches everyone off guard. The instant an avalanche grinds to a halt, the snow changes. While it's moving, all that tumbling traps air between the snow crystals. But when it stops, the friction and pressure make the crystals refreeze together, almost instantly, bonding into a dense, solid mass. The fluffy powder becomes something closer to setting cement. And it happens in seconds. So a person who was just tumbling in what felt like a snowy river is suddenly clamped in place by a substance they cannot move against at all. This is why you can't just dig yourself out. Most buried people can't even move their hands. The snow isn't a blanket you can push aside. It's a cast that has hardened around your whole body. And it gets stranger, because once you're under there, you may not even know which way is up. In the chaos of the slide, you get tossed and spun completely around. When everything finally stops and locks solid, you could be sideways, you could be upside down. And in the pitch black, packed tight, with no sense of gravity to guide you, there's no obvious way to tell. Rescuers tell a grim old trick about this. If you can free up just enough space, let a little saliva dribble from your mouth, and feel which way it runs, that way is down. Which means the other way is the surface. But most people never get even that much room to try. So let's get to the clock. Why 15 minutes? When researchers studied large numbers of avalanche burials, they found something striking. If a completely buried person is dug out within about 15 minutes, the large majority survive. But after that, the survival rate falls off a cliff. By around 35 minutes, it has collapsed dramatically. So what changes in those minutes? It comes down to two things, and they're both about the air right in front of your face. The first threat is simple. Some people, when the snow locks down, have their nose and mouth packed solid, or their airway crushed closed. For them, it's a matter of suffocation in the most direct sense, and minutes are everything. But the second threat is sneakier, and it explains that 15-minute wall. Say you're lucky. When the snow set, a small gap of air formed in front of your face. This is called an air pocket, and it is the single biggest thing keeping you alive. You can breathe, for a little while. But you're breathing into a tiny sealed space, surrounded by that dense, concrete-like snow. With every breath, you use up a bit of the oxygen in that pocket, and you breathe out carbon dioxide. And here's the trap. The snow around your face is so dense and packed that the gas can't escape and fresh air can't get in. So you start breathing the same air over and over, your own exhaled carbon dioxide building up in that little pocket, your oxygen running down. You are slowly poisoning your own air supply. Even with a perfect air pocket, that is the process that closes in. And that is what the 15-minute clock is really measuring. There's a cruel detail here, too. As you breathe against the snow right at your face, the warmth and moisture of your breath can melt it slightly, and then it refreezes into a thin, hard shell of ice. This is called an ice mask, and it seals your air pocket even more tightly shut, choking off any last hope of fresh air sneaking through. The very act of breathing to stay alive helps wall you in. So if you can't dig yourself out, and the clock is this short, what actually saves people? And the answer reframes the entire problem. Once you're buried, you are almost never going to rescue yourself. Your survival depends, almost completely, on the people standing next to you when it happened. Not a professional rescue team who could be hours away, your own group. This is why people who travel in avalanche country carry very specific gear. Each person wears a small transmitter called a beacon that constantly sends out a signal. If someone is buried, everyone else switches their beacon to receive and follows that signal across the snow to pinpoint where their friend is. Then they use a long collapsible pole called a probe to find the exact spot and a lightweight shovel to dig fast. The whole system exists for one reason: to get a buried person breathing fresh air again inside that critical window because no one else is coming in time. Which raises the obvious question. If being buried is this deadly, how do you avoid it in the first place? And here the science is surprisingly specific. Avalanches don't happen on just any snowy hill. They happen overwhelmingly on slopes between about 30 and 45 degrees. Gentler than that, and the snow usually just sits there. Much steeper, and it tends to shed in small, harmless slides before it can build into a big, dangerous slab. That middle range is the sweet spot for disaster. On top of that, the snow has to be primed. A heavy new snowfall, or strong winds, piling snow deep onto one side of a slope, can lay a thick, heavy slab right on top of a weaker, sugary layer underneath. That buried weak layer is the trapdoor. It can hold for days, looking perfectly solid, until one extra bit of weight tips it past its breaking point. And here is the most uncomfortable truth in all of avalanche safety. That extra weight is usually a person. The large majority of people caught in avalanches triggered the slide themselves, or someone in their own group did. The mountain rarely just lets go on its own at the worst possible moment. Someone steps onto the wrong slope at the wrong time and becomes the final straw. Which means the single most powerful safety tool isn't the beacon or the shovel. It's the decision made before you ever set foot on the slope about whether to step onto it at all. And that's really the heart of it. We picture an avalanche as a wall of snow that crushes people. But the truth is quieter and stranger, and in a way more important to understand. The slide is violent, yes. But for most people who are fully buried, the real enemy isn't the impact. It's a few cubic inches of trapped air, slowly going stale, sealed inside snow that has turned to stone. It's a countdown that starts the instant everything goes still, which is exactly why the entire culture of safe backcountry travel is built around two ideas. Don't get caught in the first place by reading the snow and the slope. And if you do, make sure the friends beside you can find you and dig you out in minutes, not hours. The mountain doesn't give you much time. So everything is designed around the few minutes it does. So the next time you see that postcard image of a perfect, snow-covered slope, you might see it a little differently. Beautiful, still, silent, and, under the wrong conditions, holding a 15-minute clock that only your companions can stop. The next time someone asks you why an avalanche is so deadly and why you can't just dig your way out, well, then you'll know.